Doomsday book by Connie Willis. So this book was copyright 1992, and this one won the Hugo Award and the Nebula Award for Best Novel in 1993. So we have a very award-winning book, and most people that watch this channel have probably heard of it, if not already read it. I've been wanting to read this book for decades now, and now that I have, I'm really glad I did. So this is a time travel book that has a lot to do with pandemics or communicable diseases. And I've seen, after I finished reading this book, I went back and read some things, and I saw some ways that people spoil this book. And so I'm going to be really careful when I talk about the disease pandemic side of this book. So the setup for this one is we have a universe that Connie Willis has written, I think like 4 books in, and she calls it the Oxford Time Travel Series. And what this is in the year 2050, there is this like academic group that was formed at Oxford in England, and they learned how to do time travel. We don't even know why. We don't know how it works. This book is really light on the science, and it's definitely more about the characters and the story. But there's this Oxford time travel school, and they send people back mostly just to gather data. They aren't really trying to change their present day or the future or anything like that. They even talk about this net that kind of prevents paradoxes from happening. So you couldn't even, bring something through to go back into the future that could potentially have an outcome and change the future. This net would like filter that out is kind of how it's talked about. But once again, it's never really explained. It's just saying these are the rules in this universe, and this is what we've got. So, she wrote 4 stories and 4 novels and also a short story called Firewatch. This is a collection of short stories that Connie Willis put together, and it's called Firewatch. And the story in there, Firewatch, is in this same universe with these Oxford time travel academics. So some people recommended to go ahead and read that first, and I'm glad I did because it kind of introduced this whole concept of this time travel, and it also kind of showed me Connie Willis's writing, which is really, really good. And so I finished that short story and I just jumped right into this because I figured I'm ready to go. Let's do it. It's been a while. So this book, it's the same universe. We got this Oxford time travel group set up in around 2050. And we've got this guy on that end of the story who stays in 2050, and his name is, I don't want to mess this up. I think it's Dunsworthy. Dunworthy. So Dunworthy, he's kind of, running a program and sending people back in time and getting the information. And one of his employees or students or whatever you want to call them is this woman named Kivrin. And she's kind of the main character of the story. And she is getting ready to go back in time to the 1300s. And this is kind of like right before the Black Plague hit. And they were kind of getting some information and trying to learn what was kind of going on in that time in this place in London. And so Dunsworthy's really concerned. She's this young woman going back to the 1300s by herself. It's this big coordinated effort to try to get the person back. And so it's kind of a big deal. And in the beginning of the book, right as she's getting ready to travel back in time, there's this big thing that happens that creates this big conflict and this mystery. And it has to do with pandemics or diseases or things like that. And this is where I want to be really careful not to spoil this. I've seen people spoil it. But when you're reading, this thing happens right in the beginning of the book, and I'm thinking, okay, we're going to get this resolved really quick and move on. Well, it takes you 2/3 of the book before that kind of basic thing gets resolved and gets kind of explained. You're thinking different things this whole time, or I was, but I wasn't sure. And so there's this conflict with this pandemic that complicates a bunch of things. And you've got Kivrin over in the 1300s by herself. So half of this book is kind of from her point of view in the 1300s, trying to figure out what happened and how she's going to get back. And then the other half of the story is from this Dunsworthy guy, and he's in 2050 in England, and he's trying to get her back safely and try to figure out what happened on their end of this whole crisis as well. So that's really all I want to talk about when it comes to the plot. I think if any of that sounds good, just start reading this book. I think you'll know right away if you like this style of book and the way Connie Willis writes. I know there's people that don't like character-driven books and need a lot of the science and science fiction explained, and this isn't one of those books. But if you do give this a shot, I think it's amazing. The characters are really fleshed out. There's characters that have flaws, characters that are annoying. It seems pretty realistic. This world building she did going back to the 1300s was just done so well. You almost felt like you were there. It just had this tone that she wrote with that just was really good. So that's where this historical fiction side of things kind of fits in. Half this book kind of reads like a historical fiction. And then I would say, as you'll read through this book, you'll get to the end, the conflict will get resolved. As far as the ending goes, it was about mid-level for me. I think really this book is about the characters, the plot, the story, feeling for the characters and all that. Another interesting thing, this book was written in 1993, about 30 years before a pandemic that we went through. And it's pretty interesting looking at some of the things Connie Willis was trying to predict and some of the things she got right and some of the things she got wrong. And so that was pretty cool. Also, just what she predicted about the future with 2050. Some of the things seem kind of plausible and some of the things just don't really add up. But if you go into this book looking for plot holes, looking for ways to pick it apart, you're not going to enjoy it. So really, if you're into the character-driven story, the narrative, a fun book with part of it taking place in the 1300s, which I personally didn't know a lot about, then go ahead and pick this one up and give it a shot. Now, the book that comes right after that is To Say Nothing of the Dog. I will definitely be reading this sometime soon, probably this year. I've read a few time travel books lately, so I'm going to kind of space that out a little bit. But what I think I'm going to read next is This Immortal by Roger Zelazny. I'm not sure. I'm going to start this. If I'm not feeling it, I might switch something else up, but I think that's what I'm going to read next. And I should also mention this book, Doomsday book, was book 37 in a series I'm doing of 140 books called The Masterpieces of Science Fiction. So I'll leave a link to the video where I announce that down in the description as well. So once again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.